الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أمسينا وأمسى الملك لله والحمد لله لا شريك له لا إله إلا هو وإليه المصير. أمسينا على فطرة الإسلام وكلمة الإخلاص وعلى دين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى ملة أبينا إبراهيم حنيفا وما كان من المشركين. اللهم إني أمسيت منك في نعمة وعافية وستر فأتم علي نعمتك وعافيتك وسترك في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما أمسى بي من نعمة أو بأحد من خلقك فمنك وحدك لا شريك لك فلك الحمد ولك الشكر. يا رب لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك. رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا. ثم أما بعد, my dear respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We start by praising Allah Azza wa Jal and sending prayers upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the time we are spending here to learn about the lives and the stories of the prophets alayhim as-salatu was-salam. And we are still going through the amazing story of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. And tonight, inshallah, we will conclude this story by going through the verses. So basically what remains from the story is through the remaining verses of Surah Yusuf. And last time, just to connect tonight's presentation with last week, last time we talked about the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, the sons of Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam, when they started going through the drought and they needed the provision. They needed the provisions. So there was no other place to go to get the provision except Al-Aziz. And let me remind everyone that Al-Aziz again is the title of the governor of Egypt. The title of the governor of Egypt. And Al-Aziz at that time was Prophet Yusuf himself. He was the governor of Egypt, or if you want, he was the official one in charge of the treasure. He was in charge of providing and distributing the provision among the people of Egypt and even outside Egypt. So that's why when he became famous because of his knowledge, because of his kindness, because of his generosity, because of his fairness. Then people started coming from everywhere, including Yaqub alayhi salam, asking his kids to go to Al-Aziz and ask for provision for our family. So they went to him, and Yusuf alayhi salam, he recognized them. The first time he saw them, he recognized them, but they did not recognize him. So he asked them about themselves, trying to show them that he is investigating because he heard stuff about them. He kept asking them about their family and all that stuff, and they confirmed to him that their father is a great man, he is a prophet, he is an old man, they left him behind at home. And they told him that they used to have a younger brother, and they don't know where he is now. And subhanAllah, they were talking about him, right, standing right in front of their eyes. And then Yusuf alayhi salam, he did not tell them about himself, but he gave them the provision, and he gave them back whatever the goods that they brought with them, the silver and whatever the goods that they brought with them. And he asked them to come back, and he can only provide them with the provision in one condition: if they bring their other brother Benjamin that they left behind with his father. And we have seen that, they told him his father will not allow us to bring him, but we will do our best. We will do our best. So they went back to their father, and they gave him or told him the story, talking about the kindness of Al-Aziz and his generosity and so on. And then they told him, Muni'na al-Kayl. He told us that I'm not going to give you anything more than this, except if you bring with you your brother. And of course, the feeling of Yaqub at that time. And he told his kids, are you going to do to him what you have done earlier to his brother? But they told him, we have no other option. Otherwise, we are not going to have any food. So he took from them a pledge that they will safeguard him, they will take care of him as much as they can, إِلَّا أَن يُحَاطَ بِكُمْ, unless you are overpowered with circumstances, something might happen to you, then that's fine. Then that's fine. So the time came for them to go back to Egypt to get the provision. And when they were going to Egypt, Yaqub, their father, alayhi salam, he gave them an advice. And this advice was, do not enter all of you from one gate. Take different gates. Okay? Enter from different gates. He didn't tell them why. It was just something in his heart that he wanted to fulfill. So he told them, وَقَالَ يَا بَنِيَّ لَا تَدْخُلُوا مِنْ بَابٍ وَاحِدٍ وَادْخُلُوا مِنْ أَبْوَابٍ مُتَفَرِّقَةٍ. And he said, oh my sons, do not enter the city, all of you from one same gate. Rather, enter from different gates. Without telling them why. وَمَا أُغْنِي عَنْكُمْ مِنَ اللَّهِ شَيْئًا. And he told them, and I do not, or I cannot help you in any way against the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Which means that I'm asking you to enter from different gates, but if anything might happen to you, it will happen to you by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I can do nothing about it. إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ عَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ وَعَلَيْهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُتَوَكِّلُونَ. Sovereignty belongs to none but Allah. In Him I place my trust, and all those who trust should trust in Him alone. So here is Yaqub alayhi salam not only giving these advices to his kids in order to be safe, but also advising them to make tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is an indication that Yaqub alayhi salam was very concerned about the safety of all his kids, including Benjamin. Because Yaqub already was going through a long time period of grieving about losing Yusuf alayhi salam. So he was in that mood of fear that he might lose Benjamin, his other son. He might lose any of his sons. So he kept telling them what to do. Do not enter all of you from one gate. Enter from different gates and make tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Trust Allah. So these are the advices given by the father and a prophet to his kids in order to remain safe during their trip. Now they arrived to the city and they did exactly what their father asked them to do. They did not enter all of them from one gate, but they entered from different gates. وَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا حَيْثُ أَمَرَهُمْ أَبُوهُمْ. And when they entered the city in the manner their father had advised them, مَا كَانَ يُغْنِي عَنْهُمْ مِنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. He could not help them in any way against the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِلَّا حَاجَةً فِي نَفْسِ يَعْقُوبَ قَضَاهَا. But it was just an urge in the heart of Yaqub which he satisfied. I mean, he did feel comfortable telling them not to enter from one door, but enter from different doors or different gates. وَإِنَّهُ لَذُو عِلْمٍ لِمَا عَلَّمْنَاهُ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. He was a man, Yaqub. Allah Azza wa Jal is describing Yaqub here. He was a man of knowledge because he had taught him, but most of the people do not know. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is describing Yaqub alayhi salam that he was a man of knowledge, and the knowledge that he had was given to him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at a time where other people didn't know. Now they entered and the city, and they arrived to Yusuf alayhi salam, the place where Al-Aziz was receiving and welcoming the people coming from everywhere and giving them the provision. Remember, this is their second visit to Egypt. They came before, he gave them a little bit, and then he put this condition: bring your brother with you, otherwise you will not get anything. Now they came back. وَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَى يُوسُفَ. And when they came to Yusuf, آوَى إِلَيْهِ أَخَاهُ. He lodged his brother Benjamin with himself. He grabbed his brother and he took him with him. He took him to eat with him. At night, he invited them to spend the night with him, and he gave them different rooms, and he grabbed his brother Benjamin to spend the night with him. Till now, Benjamin doesn't know that the one who is interacting with him, the one who is eating with him, and he's going to spend the night with him in the same room, he didn't know that he was his brother. He thought he was Al-Aziz, and he is just taking care of him. So when he brought his brother with him, he asked him about his brother, his missing brother. And he told him, do you want somebody like me to replace your brother? He said, I wish. You are a good man, but you can never be like him. You can never be like him. At that point, he told him, قال إني أنا أخوك فلا تبتئس بما كانوا يعملون. When he lodged him with him, he said, look, I am your brother, so do not grieve for what they have been doing. And he meant about his brothers. And subhanAllah, it was that emotional meeting between Yusuf and his brother Benjamin. They did not see each other for years and years and years. It was that emotional get together between the two brothers. And he asked him not to say anything and pretend that you don't know anything. Okay? The following day, when they were about to leave, he asked his employees, Yusuf Al-Aziz, he asked his employees to give them whatever they needed from provision, and to put or to leave the measuring bowl that they used to measure the food, to put it in the bag or the baggage of his brother, Benjamin. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَلَمَّا جَهَّزَهُمْ بِجَهَازِهِمْ. Later, when he equipped them with their provisions, he placed the ball in the camel back or camel pack of his brother. جعل السقاية في رحل أخيه ثم أذن مؤذن. Right at the time when they were about to leave the palace, one of the employees, an announcer, announced, shouting out, أيتها العير. The announcer said, أيتها العير إنكم لسارقون. O people of the caravan, you are thieves. You have stolen something. We are missing something. And all the boys or the sons of Yaqub, they stopped, they looked back, and they were shocked. They were shocked. قالوا وأقبلوا عليهم ماذا تفقدون. Turning towards them, they said, what are you missing? قالوا نفقد صواع الملك. They said, we are missing the measuring ball of the king. وَلِمَنْ جَاءَ بِهِ حِمْلُ بَعِيرٍ وَأَنَا بِهِ زَعِيمٌ. And whoever brings it back shall deserve a camel load, and I stand surely for it. Meaning that the guy was very excited to find it. They said, تالله قالوا تالله لقد علمتم ما جئنا لنفسد في الأرض وما كنا سارقين. Now they are responding to this allegation. This is before the search started. They are responding to this allegation. And they said, we swear by Allah, and you know we did not come to make mischief, fasad, in the land, nor have we ever been, stealing stuff. We're not thieves. And you know this. So why you are accusing us? قالوا فما جزاؤه إن كنتم كاذبين. What if you are lying? What if we will search your provision, your baggage, and we will find it? What are we going to do? You tell us, what are we going to do? If we find what we are missing in your baggage. قالوا جزاؤه من وجد في رحله فهو جزاؤه كذلك نجزي الظالمين. They said, its punishment, the one in whose saddlebag it is found, shall himself be the punishment. This is how we punish the wrongdoers. Which means whatever punishment you choose, that's okay. Because all of them, they knew that they didn't do it. So they were ready. Whatever punishment you choose, then that's fine. فَبَدَأَ بِأَوْعِيَتِهِمْ. Now, Yusuf himself started searching. And he started by searching the luggage of all of them. And he left his brother Benjamin, the last one. He left his brother, the last one. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَبَدَأَ بِأَوْعِيَتِهِمْ قَبْلَ وِعَاءِ أَخِيهِ. So he started with their bags before searching the bag of his brother. ثُمَّ اسْتَخْرَجَهَا مِنْ وِعَاءِ أَخِيهِ. Then he recovered it from the bag of his brother. He found the measuring bowl in the provision of his brother. كذلك كدنا ليوسف ما كان ليأخذ أخاه في دين الملك إلا أن يشاء الله. Which means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, this is how we made Yusuf get back his brother. Because Yusuf alayhi salam, the punishment that he imposed, that whoever took the measuring bowl, we will keep him here. And this is according to the Sharia of Yaqub alayhi salam. According to the Sharia of the king of Egypt, it was something different. But Yusuf alayhi salam said, I will go by your law. And your law requires that whoever steals, we will keep him here as a servant. He becomes a slave right here. So this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, that we made this as a means for Yusuf alayhi salam to keep his brother with him. Now, Yusuf alayhi salam, after finding the measuring bowl in the provision of his brother Benjamin, he told them, he announced it, and he made it very clear that because of this, your brother will stay here and he will become my slave, he will become my servant. At that point, his brother said something that deepened the wound inside Yusuf alayhi salam. قالوا إن يسرق فقد سرق أخ له من قبل. They said, if he commits theft, Benjamin, their brother, there is nothing surprising because his other brother has committed theft earlier. And they were talking about him standing right in front of their eyes. So they said, it's not surprising. If he did it, we didn't know. But if he stole it, it's not surprising because his other brother, the missing one, did it before. Which means that both of them are thieves. Yusuf alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about him, his feeling, فَأَسَرَّهَا يُوسُفُ فِي نَفْسِهِ وَلَمْ يُبْدِهَا لَهُمْ. At that point, Yusuf kept his reaction and emotion to himself and did not reveal it to them. Did not reveal it to them. And he said, Yusuf said in his heart, you are even worse in possession. Allah knows best of what you allege. So, Yusuf knew that his brothers are still at least having this wrong intention in their hearts. They are still doing wrong, but he did not reveal, he did not show them his feeling and his emotion. They told him when he decided to take their brother, قالوا يا أيها العزيز. They said, oh Aziz, he has a father, a very old man. So take one of us in his place. We see you are a generous man. إِنَّا نَرَاكَ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. You remember the same description, the same characteristic that was said to Yusuf alayhi salam here was said to Yusuf alayhi salam when he was in the jail. When the two guys came to him asking him to help them interpreting their dream, they said, إِنَّا لَنَرَاكَ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. So they told him, you cannot keep him because we have pledged to his father that we will bring him back. So take any one of us. Take any one of us except him. And Yusuf alayhi salam responded to them, قَالَ مَعَذَ اللَّهِ. He said, I seek Allah's refuge from keeping anyone other than him with whom we have found our thing. Otherwise, we shall be unjust. Which means that if we take anyone else, we will be doing injustice. We will be doing injustice. We have to take the one who did it, who committed this theft. We're not going to take anyone else. فَلَمَّا اسْتَيْأَسُوا. When they lost hope. Actually, this indicates that they have been debating and negotiating and trying to convince Al-Aziz, who is Yusuf, to take anyone else except their brother. And it seems that they have spent a long time having this conversation, please, begging him. But he refused every time. I'm not going to take anyone else. We only take the one who committed this theft. فَلَمَّا اسْتَيْأَسُوا. When they lost hope in him, خَلَصُوا نَجِيًّا, which means they went on the side and they started having consultation, mashura. What are they going to do? They lost their brother now. How are they going to answer to their father? At the end of this mashura, their oldest brother, by the name of Yehuda, he told them, you know what? I'm the oldest one. I'm the one to be responsible. I'm staying here. I'm not going back home anymore until our father will make a decision about me. I cannot see him. I cannot face my father after losing our brother. I cannot do it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about that conversation, قَالَ كَبِيرُهُمْ أَلَمْ تَعْلَمُوا أَنَّ أَبَاكُمْ قَدْ أَخَذَ عَلَيْكُمْ مَوْثِقًا مِنَ اللَّهِ وَمِنْ قَبْلُ مَا فَرَّطْتُمْ فِي يُوسُفَ فَلَنْ أَبْرَحَ الْأَرْضَ حَتَّى يَأْذَنَ لِي أَبِي أَوْ يَحْكُمَ اللَّهُ لِي وَهُوَ خَيْرُ الْحَاكِمِينَ. So their brother said, don't you know that your father has taken pledge from you in the name of Allah, while you had defaulted earlier in the case of Yusuf? So I shall never leave this land unless my father permits me or Allah decides about me. He is the best of all judges. Which means that their oldest brother, feeling his responsibility, taking his responsibility, he refused to go back because he cannot face his father anymore. They gave a pledge to their father that they will take care of their brother. They will bring him back. And they failed. They did it with Yusuf first, and now they are doing it with Benjamin. So this is what he decided. And then he told them, ارجعوا إلى أبيكم, go back to your father and say, our father, your son has committed theft, and we do not testify except what we know, and we could not guard against the unseen. Which means that go to your father and tell him exactly what happened. Tell him exactly what happened. I mean, for them, since the measuring bowl was found in the luggage of their brother, for them, their brother committed theft. So he told them, go to your father and tell him exactly what you have witnessed here. Tell him that your son committed the theft, and we are just testifying, we are just saying what we have experienced. If there is anything that happened in the unseen, al-ghayb, we don't know about it. This is what their brother asked them to do, going back and telling their father. When they went back and they told the same thing to their father, what was the response of Yaqub alayhi salam? قَالَ بَلْ سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُمْ أَمْرًا. He, Yaqub, said, rather your inner desire have seduced you to something else. So patience is best. فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. Hopefully Allah may bring them all together. Surely He is the all-knowing, all-wise. So look at the reaction of Yaqub as a father and as a prophet. The first thing he did, he accused his sons. بَلْ سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُمْ. Your inner desire. I don't know what you have done. Something that I don't know. But the only thing that I can do as a father and as a prophet, number one is what? Sabrun jameel. A nice patience. Sabrun jameel, which means I should not complain to anyone except to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the first thing, the first reaction is what? Patience. And the second reaction is what? Keeping hope. Never losing hope. As he said in his own words, Asa Allah. Hopefully Allah will bring them all together. Which means that he had this hope that one day all his sons will come together. Now he is missing how many? 3. Yusuf, Benjamin, and the oldest one. Which means that grief, that sadness, that sorrow that he was going through after losing Yusuf alayhi salam increased. So he is emotionally in a very terrible situation. وَتَوَلَّى عَنْهُمْ. He turned away from them, from his sons, Yaqub alayhi salam, from his sons, and said, how sad I am about Yusuf. Ya asafa ala Yusuf. And his eyes turned white with sorrow, and he was suppressing his anger and grief. His eyes turned white, which means he lost his sight. Out of sadness, Yaqub alayhi salam, out of sadness and shedding tears and crying all the time, he lost his sight. This is how powerful was his emotion. وَابْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ فَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ قَالُوا تَاللَّهِ. Now, he isolated himself, Yaqub alayhi salam, and he started spending time just by himself. Whether he was praying, whether he was making istighfar, making dua, remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever he was doing it with that feeling of sadness. And the kids, they were observing their father every day and every night. They were observing their father every day and every night, to the point that after having a discussion amongst themselves, they decided to go and talk to him. Meaning that somebody needs to talk to him. What he is doing for himself or to himself is not right. So they came to him all together and they told him, تَاللَّهِ تَفْتَأُ تَذْكُرُ يُوسُفَ حَتَّى تَكُونَ حَرَضًا أَوْ تَكُونَ مِنَ الْهَالِكِينَ. They said to him, by God, you will not stop remembering Yusuf until you collapse or you perish. Meaning that, have mercy on yourself. Stop doing this to yourself. So they were blaming their father for having this feeling of sadness and sorrow all the time about Yusuf alayhi salam, about their brother. قال إنما أشكو بثي وحزني إلى الله. This is his response. He said, I do not complain of my anguish and sorrow to anyone but Allah. And I know from Allah what you do not know. وَأَعْلَمُ مِنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. After a few days later, he felt that Yusuf is somewhere. He didn't know where. He knew where Benjamin was. He knew where his oldest son was. But he didn't know where Yusuf was. So after thinking about the situation, Yaqub alayhi salam brought all his sons together. And he gave them this command. Ya bani, all my sons, اذهبوا فتحسسوا من يوسف وأخيه. Go and search for Yusuf and his brother. ولا تيأسوا من روح الله. And do not lose hope in the mercy of Allah. إنه لا ييأس من روح الله إلا القوم الكافرون. And in fact, only the non-believers lose hope in Allah's mercy. Which means that that Yaqub alayhi salam, he pushed his sons to go and search. Because he had that feeling that one day they will come all together. They will find them all together. So, because they had no other option, and they had to take this command of their father, his sons, they decided to go back to Al-Aziz, to beg him, to report to him the state of their father, to tell him, this is how our father is now, this is his situation, so please, we want you to give us our brother. Because if they can get Benjamin back home, at least their oldest brother will go back home as well. So it will be a little bit easier for Yaqub alayhi salam. So they went back to Egypt and they met with Yusuf alayhi salam. فلما دخلوا عليه قالوا يا أيها العزيز مسنا وأهلنا الضر وجئنا ببضاعة مزجاة فأوف لنا الكيل وتصدق علينا إن الله يجزي المتصدقين. So when they came to him, to Yusuf, they said, "O Al-Aziz, we and our family are struck by distress, and we have brought some goods of very little worth. So give us the full measure of grain and be charitable to us. Surely Allah rewards the charitable." At that point, Yusuf alayhi salam wanted them to understand what's going on. Then he decided that this is the right time to tell them the reality. When they asked him this question, he asked them another question, totally irrelevant to what they have asked. They were asking, to get some food, but he asked them something else. He said, قال هل علمتم ما فعلتم بيوسف وأخيه إذ أنتم جاهلون? He said, do you know what you did to Yusuf and his brother when you were ignorant? What does this to have with that? He is asking them about their brother Yusuf and his brother Benjamin. Do you remember what you did to them when you were ignorant a long time ago? And they were shocked because no one knows about this story except themselves. No one, no other person knows about what happened to Yusuf and what happened to Benjamin except themselves. Some of them thought that Benjamin is the one who told him about the story of Yusuf. Till that point, till that moment, they didn't know that the one who is talking to them is Yusuf himself. So they were thinking, they were shocked, they didn't know what to say. And again, some of them, they thought that Benjamin, because he stayed with him for I don't know how many days and nights, they thought that Benjamin is the one who told them, or who told him about the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. But one of them came up with this thought. I guess that they started kind of looking at him and trying to find out who is this person. How could he get this information about our own family, our own history that no one knows except them? So one of them said, أَإِنَّكَ لَأَنْتَ يُوسُف. They said, is it that you are in fact Yusuf? They asked him this question. قال, he said, أَنَا يُوسُف وَهَذَا أَخِي. He said, I am Yusuf and this is my brother. قَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا. Allah has been very kind to us. إِنَّهُ مَنْ يَتَّقِ وَيَصْبِرْ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Surely whoever fears Allah and observes patience, Allah does not let the reward of such good people to go to waste. At that point, they realized that they have been talking to their own brother Yusuf alayhi salam. And he did not refer anything to himself, that I am alive because I was strong, because I am lucky. No, because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has been so kind with us, or to us. So he referred all the thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He gave the credit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I'm still alive and I am in a much, much better situation now. When he told them this, قالوا تالله لقد آثرك الله علينا وإن كنا لخاطئين. They said, we swear by Allah, indeed Allah has given you preference over us, and we were guilty in fact. We were guilty in fact. Which means they recognized, they acknowledged that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preferred not only their father, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preferred their brother over themselves, and they acknowledged of their guilt, that they have done wrong to their brother, they have done wrong to the whole family by committing that mistake that they have done when Yusuf was a young man. And the way they treated him and the way they treated his brother Benjamin. So they acknowledged everything, and there was nothing that they could hide at that time. At that moment, when they expressed their guilt, they were expecting a punishment, they were expecting something. I don't know what came to their mind at that time. Just imagine you are in the situation of Yusuf alayhi salam, standing before your own brothers who did all what they did against you and against your own brother. And now they are acknowledging their guilt and their mistake. What kind of reaction? And you are in a position of power. You are in a position of power. What can you do at that time? Listen to the reaction of Yusuf alayhi salam. قَالَ لَا تَثْرِيبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الْيَوْمِ. He said, no reproach upon you today. الْيَوْمَ يَغْفِرُ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. May Allah forgive you, and He is the most merciful of all the merciful. Which means that Yusuf alayhi salam wanted to teach them and to teach all the believers, all the people who will come after him, that in a position, when you are in a position of power and you have the means and the ways to seek revenge, but you choose to forgive people. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted us to do. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted us to do. لا تثريب عليكم اليوم. Don't worry about it. It's like telling them, don't worry about it, don't even think about it. خلاص. It's part of the history now. May Allah forgive you. And I know that Allah will forgive you because He is Arham al-Rahimin. He is the all-merciful, the most merciful of the all-merciful. Which means that Yusuf alayhi salam, basically, he opened in front of them the gates of Rahmah, the gates of Maghfirah, the gates of acceptance. That as long as you feel the guilt, as long as you are ready to repent to Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ready to forgive you. Why? Because He is Arhamur Rahim. This is what Yusuf alayhi salam intended to do and to tell his brothers. Now, imagine that happens. This is a new reunion of the family. After feeling the guilt, feeling bad about themselves because of what they have done, now they were accepted. They are forgiven. I guess at that moment, Yusuf alayhi salam asked them about his father. How is he doing? And I'm sure that they started telling him stories and stories about him. They started telling him, you cannot even believe the situation he is in at this time. This is his feeling. This is what he is doing. He lost his sight. He did this. He did that. And they started telling him about that horrible situation their father is at that moment. So Yusuf alayhi salam came up with this decision. Now it's up to him to bring the entire family together. He took his qamis, his shirt, and he told them, go back, take with you this shirt. Once you arrive over there, just throw it on my father. He will get back his sight. And then after that, bring him and come all together. Bring him and come all together. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. اذهبوا بقميص هذا فألقوه على وجه أبي يأتي بصيرا وأتوني بأهلكم أجمعين. Go with this shirt of mine and put it over the face of my father, and he will turn into a sighted man and bring to me all your family. SubhanAllah. Just do this. Take my shirt, put it on the face of my father, he will get back his sight, and then bring me your entire family. And they did so. When the caravan was about to arrive to the place where Yaqub was living, قال أبوهم, their father said, Yaqub said, إني لأجد ريح يوسف, I sense the fragrance of Yusuf. لولا تفندون, if you do not take me to, if you do not say that I'm a full person, if you trust me, if you believe in me, I am sensing the fragrance of Yusuf. And we're talking about the caravan far away. They are coming from far away. Yusuf, Yaqub alayhi salam, started, smelling the fragrance of Yusuf alayhi salam. Okay, we are talking about a son who was missing since his childhood. We're talking maybe about decades of time. He did not see, he did not smell his son. And now, from far away, he could smell the fragrance of his son. At that point, he became totally a different person. He became a different person. He started improving in terms of his feelings and emotions. And his sons, when they saw him doing that and saying that, قالوا تالله إنك لفي ضلالك القديم. They said, by God, you are still in your old fallacy. Which means that you are still that man who loves Yusuf alayhi salam more than anyone else. And this is the proof. This is the proof that you could even smell the fragrance of Yusuf from far away, just because we have brought his shirt with us. فَلَمَّا أَنْ جَاءَ الْبَشِيرُ أَلْقَاهُ عَلَى وَجْهِهِ. They brought, when they came, the man with the good news, they came to him, they put the shirt on his face, and he turned into a sighted man. He, Yaqub, said, didn't I tell you that I know from Allah what you do not know? Didn't I tell you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring him and bring them all and reunite between all of us? So Yaqub alayhi salam is just confirming to his sons that he is a prophet, and because of the knowledge that was given to him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he knew that one day he is going to meet with Yusuf and all his other sons. قالوا يا أبانا استغفر لنا ذنوبنا إنا كنا خاطئين. They said, "Oh Father, pray to Allah to forgive us our sins. Surely we have been guilty. We have done horrible stuff. We have committed sins. We made mistakes. Oh our Father, seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to us." Which means, as they have confessed everything to Yusuf in Egypt, now it's time for them to confess everything to their father. There is nothing that can be hidden at that time. And they asked their father as a prophet to ask Allah to forgive them. قَالَ سَوْفَ أَسْتَغْفِرُ لَكُمْ رَبِّي. He said, I shall pray to my Lord to forgive you. Surely He is the most forgiving, the most merciful. إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ. And then they prepared themselves and they started getting ready, and I can feel the excitement of Yaqub and all the whole family. And the mother of Yusuf alayhi salam, even though, if you remember at the beginning, they said that his mother died, during his childhood, but the mother of his sons, and she was her aunt. She was his aunt. And her aunt, or his aunt, is like the mother. She is like the mother. So everybody got excited and they started getting ready to go to Egypt and meet with Yusuf alayhi salam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala moved, the story forward and telling us what happened. فَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَى يُوسُفَ آوَى إِلَيْهِ أَبَوَيْهِ وَقَالَ ادْخُلُوا مِصْرَ إِنْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ آمِنِينَ. Later when they came to Yusuf, he placed his parents near himself and said, enter Egypt, God willing, in peace. وَرَفَعَ أَبَوَيْهِ عَلَى الْعَرْشِ. And he raised his parents up on the throne, and they all fell before him in prostration. وَخَرُّوا لَهُ سُجَّدًا وَقَالَ يَا أَبَتِ. And he said, "Oh my father, here is the fulfillment of my early dream. My Lord has made it come true." Subhanallah. You remember when he was a child and he went to his father and he told him, "I saw in the dream 11 كوكبا, 11 stars, and the sun and the moon prostrating to me." Now Yusuf is telling his father, "Dad, this is the fulfillment of the dream that I have seen in my childhood. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it true." The whole family came together and they prostrated to Yusuf alayhi salam. Sujood, a prostration, sujood takreem, prostration of honor. This is not a prostration of ibadah, of worship, because in terms of the prostration of worship, it cannot be done to anyone except to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the beautiful story of Yusuf alayhi salam. This is the beautiful story of Yusuf alayhi salam. His family remained in Egypt. They didn't go back. They didn't go back. They remained in Egypt altogether. And Yaqub alayhi salam, when he went to Egypt, when he met with his son Yusuf alayhi salam, he was 130 years old. He was 130 years old. He lived in Egypt with his son and with his entire family for 17 years. And he died after 17 years, which means when he was 147 years old. Yusuf alayhi salam died in Egypt when he was 110. When he was 110 years old. And he was buried in Egypt. First, he was buried in Egypt. But he asked his brothers, later on, whenever you are able to, take my body to the Holy Land and bury me next to my grandfathers, Ishaq and Ibrahim and Sarah. And the story says that they took his body later on and they buried him in the Holy Land. We don't know exactly. Some narratives, they say in Nablus, Palestine. Some of them, they said in Hebron, Al-Khalil. We don't know exactly, but his body was removed from Egypt and he was buried in the Holy Land in Palestine. So this is about the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted his life to end in this beautiful, happy way, the reunion of the family. But between his birth and his death, there are so many lessons that we can learn about Yusuf alayhi salam, about his character, about his sabr, about his akhlaq, about his morals. And this story of Yusuf alayhi salam remains a unique story in the Quran. And subhanAllah, every time you go and recite Surah Yusuf, every time, it's as if you feel that it's as if you are reciting it for the first time in your life. And every time you go through the story of Yusuf, every time you learn something new. You learn something new. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give the best reward to Yusuf alayhi salam and to all the prophets, including our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, for their sacrifice to teach us the religion, to be our role model, to be our example. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us understanding the lessons from their lives. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to follow their footsteps and to be like them in their personality, in their iman, in their yaqeen, in their sabr, in their jihad, in their sacrifice. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always help us to be on the straight path of Him till the last moment of our lives. Our next prophet that we will talk about him next week, inshallah, will be Prophet Shu'aib. Alayhi salatu wassalam. Until then, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us our sins, our mistakes and shortcomings, and to accept us, or to accept from us everything good we have done in our lives. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.